Once upon a time, in a quiet forest, there lived a group of birds who couldn't fly. Unlike the others, they had small wings and heavy bodies. The other birds laughed at them and called them names like ground birds or the walkers. But these flightless birds were kind, smart, and full of hope. They didn't let the insults break their hearts. Instead, they focused on what they could do. They became excellent runners, swimmers, and even builders. They built cozy nests and helped other animals find food during the cold season. One year, a terrible storm hit the forest. Strong winds knocked down many nests from the trees. The birds who could fly had nowhere to rest and nothing to eat. The flightless birds who lived safely on the ground opened their homes and shared their food. They saved many lives. After the storm, the forest birds no longer saw them as different. They saw them as heroes. From that day on, no one laughed at the flightless birds again. In fact, they were admired for their courage, kindness, and strength. Moral: you don't need wings to rise above. Everyone has their own special way to shine. Seasons passed, and the forest began to change. New animals arrived, and old ones moved on. The young birds grew up hearing the story of the brave flightless birds who helped save the forest. One little sparrow named Luma was especially curious. She flew down one day and asked an old ground bird named Timo, "How did you stay so strong when others laughed at you?" Timo smiled gently and said, "Because we knew that kindness is more powerful than wings. One day, even those who fly high must land. That's when they'll remember who helped them stand again." Inspired by those words, Luma began telling the story to others across the forest, from tree to tree and nest to nest. Soon, birds from far away began to visit the flightless ones, not to mock them, but to learn from them. They learned how to build stronger nests, how to work together, and most importantly, how to see value in every creature, no matter their size, color, or ability. By the time Timo passed away, the flightless birds were no longer seen as weak. They had become leaders of the forest. Luma, she became the storyteller of the skies, carrying their legacy through every wing beat, whispering it into the winds. Final moral: true greatness isn't in how high you fly, but in how deeply you care. Years went by, and the forest became a place of unity and peace. Different birds, animals, and even insects worked together in ways they never had before, all because of the lesson taught by the humble, flightless birds. One day, an egg hatched in the ground bird's village. It was different. This baby bird had wings larger than anyone had ever seen before, but when he tried to fly, he couldn't. The community didn't laugh or pity him. Instead, they smiled with warmth and said, "Maybe you were born not to fly in the sky, but to lift others in a new way." The young bird named Arlo grew up hearing the story of Timo and the storm. He didn't care about flying. He focused on learning, helping, and creating. He invented new tools, helped organize food for the winter, and even created a signal system that allowed birds across the forest to communicate. The once flightless birds were now leading the forest in ways that flying never could. Even the eagles came to learn from them. One bright morning, during the Festival of Feathers, a celebration of unity in the forest, Luma, now old and wise, stood beside Arlo and said to the crowd, "Flight is not just about wings, it's about rising above fear, above hate, above judgment. And these birds, though once called flightless, taught us how to truly soar." The forest echoed with cheers, and in that moment, everyone realized something powerful. The birds who couldn't fly had lifted the entire forest higher than wings ever could. Final message: real flight begins in the heart, and those who lift others are the ones who truly fly.